My name is Reema Zaman, and I am the author of the memoir I Am Yours, and here is my story. When my husband and I got married, he announced that he wouldn't be buying me a ring because he didn't want to participate in blood diamonds. I remember biting back my words that not all diamonds have to be blood diamonds, but I bit back my words because I knew better than to speak. I knew that were I to speak, he would only use my words against me as proof of my insolence, proof of my ingratitude, proof of my selfishness, proof of my misbehavior. So I kept quiet. We were married on January 4th, 2010, in the dead of the New York winter. Once married, we moved onto his sailboat, which was parked on the ice with a beautiful view of the Statue of Liberty. Mind you, it was a sailboat, not a houseboat, 29 feet in length. It was tiny, and we didn't have any heating or plumbing. To stay warm, he figured out how to line the entire inside of the sailboat with electric heaters and space heaters, electric blankets and space heaters. I'm pretty sure we were a fire hazard. To cook our meals, we had a hot plate and a pressure cooker, and life was sweet and simple. He had recently purchased a half-burnt barn in upstate New York using bank loans and a hefty gift from his mother. He had this goal of turning this barn, which had been eaten up by a fire in the 80s. Half of it was completely dark and pitch black. He wanted to rebuild it into a family home for us and our future kids. So every day he would drive upstate to work on the barn, and I would walk the 2 miles in the snow to the nearest subway to go to my nannying job. In the evenings, we'd meet back at the barn. He'd work on architectural plans, and I'd write on my laptop to work on an essay or a song, or I'd work on my drawings. I had started selling my art for much-needed cash. I use pen and pencil for my drawings. And I love how graphite is actually a form of carbon, and carbon, when exposed to extreme heat and enormous pressure, becomes diamonds. I would think of this while I would be working on a drawing, while I would be pressing down on the page with a piece of charcoal or a pencil. Graphite, under enormous pressure, becomes art. Art is, after all, the act of turning pain into poetry. The winter shifted into the spring, and we moved out of the sailboat and into his VW bus, parked in front of the barn. We were living quite luxuriously, obviously. These warmer months were good for us. I would run through the woods surrounding our barn, and he would work on the barn. And the days were long, and the work was hard, and this hard work tempered my husband's moods. He grew into a better man every time he felt like he had a clear purpose in life. It was when that purpose slipped away, or he let it slip away, that he would slip into shadow. Spring shifted into summer, summer into fall, and lo and behold, money for the barn ran out. My husband had a habit of using part of the monthly loan, which was meant for construction materials and hired labor. He would use it on drinking instead, and on lavish dinners at different restaurants that he would go to by himself while I would be at my nannying job. He enjoyed going by himself because it would allow him the freedom to talk to the other people he'd find there, mainly other women. He would spend $100 here, $100 there, talking and laughing and flirting with other women, while I was taking care of other people's children, working so hard to make pennies to support our life together. The further he let things slip away, the further he slipped into shadow. The further he slipped into shadow, the further I grew away from him and into my work. I started writing more. I started drawing more. My drawings became more dark, more complex, and they improved. And soon I was selling them for larger and larger amounts, beginning initially at $100, moving all the way up to $5,000. And with every sale, my husband grew both happy and resentful. My growing talent both impressed and insulted him. It's like he thought there was only space for one person in our life, and that my growing talent threatened him. The more threatened he became, the tighter he began to squeeze, to trap, to choke. He started me calling his wife for greensies, not for realsies, to remind me that my green card had been procured through marriage. Wife for greensies, not for realsies, to remind me that my ability to live and work in the United States was dependent on him. Wife for greensies, not for realsies, to remind me that I was tied and beholden to him, and that were I to speak out of line, I could be rejected and even deported. Wife for greensies, to remind me that power only responds to power, and that in his eyes, as a Bangladeshi immigrant wife, to his white male American superior privilege, I was powerless. Additionally, his habit for women had grown stronger. He had started bringing home fistfuls of receipts with other women's names and numbers on them, and he would brandish these handfuls of names in front of my face like medals from a successful day. But then, the more abusive he became, the more loudly my inner voice began to speak. My inner voice started speaking so loudly, so insistently, as if to warn me, protect me, comfort me, until suddenly I was waking up with fully formed essays delivered onto the doorstep of my brain, and my sole task was to take dictation from my inner voice. These essays were meticulously sculpted exposés and debates on love, partnership, marriage, my parents' marriage, and the lasting effects of unhealed trauma, of intergenerational trauma, and how, if we let it go, it will return as a repeated cycle of self-harm and punishment in the form of abusive relationships. It was as though my inner voice had compressed all my lived and learned knowledge and synthesized them with my education as a women's studies major in college, and delivered these essays to embolden my spirit. Carbon under pressure becomes diamond. As I wrote and read back these essays, I began to fill with the clarity and validation I needed to realize that contrary to what he was doing, I was not a worthless human being after all. Contrary to what he was saying, I was not dependent and powerless after all. Contrary to what he believed, I was not a forgettable, mundane piece of earth, but rather a jewel in the making. The more abusive he became, the more I wrote. The more I wrote, the clearer I grew. I grew so clear that I began to refract light like a diamond will when held up to the sun. I began running longer and longer miles through the woods surrounding our home. As I ran, I would recite essays and songs that I had written. I love a mean, mean man. I gave him all I am. He holds my voice in his hands. I need an exit plan. You gotta run, baby. Run, run, baby. Better run, baby. Run, run, baby. Better run, baby. Run, run, baby. Better run. 'Cause he's coming for you. With every lyric, every story, every song, every essay, every time foot hit upon ground, I felt myself growing stronger. I felt the muscles and tendons in my body become more alert, more confident. I realized that should I need to, should I run to, should I want to, I could run away from him and toward my freedom. Carbon under pressure becomes diamond. The impact of body upon earth was enhancing me. Winter arrived, and soon it was Valentine's Day, 2011. My husband picked me up from the train station after a long day of nannying for me and bartending for him. In the car, on the way to the barn, he brandished that day's fistful of women in front of my face. I kept quiet, too tired, too cold to speak. We arrived at the barn, and we walked through the snow and over the wooden plank that existed in place of steps and entered the structure. Inside the barn, the air smelled like something was dying. Love, perhaps. Tucked in the deep left corner of the barn was our trusty queen-size mattress. Surrounding the mattress were space heaters and piles of bricks. Strung from the rafters here and there were naked light bulbs. I had memorized to walk around these light bulbs with my eyes closed because the burning glass promised to singe the skin if touched. All around us, due to the fire, big black patches of coal and burned wood kept us company. It was like the walls of our home had been licked by darkness. For Valentine's Day, I had baked 2 heart-shaped cakes, one for the boy I nannied and one for my husband. My husband took his cake, reclined on the bed, and began eating the cake, using his fingers, all the while regaling me with details about the other women he had flirted with that night. You better run, baby, run, baby, better run, baby, run, baby, better run, baby, run, baby, better run, 'cause he's coming for you. Suddenly, I felt the rush, the surge of the past merging with the present, of pain turning into poetry, of words compressing into power. No! The words sounded so foreign, so unlike me, like a small, cold, hard pebble perched on my tongue, waiting to be spat out. What? He frowned. No! You are not the one who decides my identity. I am the author of my life, and I was born for a story so much bigger than you. To speak is a revolution, and it was time to ignite mine. The first no is always the hardest, but the voice is a muscle, and the more you use it, the stronger it grows. That first time that I said no to my husband, he laughed and then grew angry. But I kept saying no, 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 until finally we separated. Carbon, when exposed to extreme heat and enormous pressure, becomes diamond. I am so happy that he never bought me a ring. I am and I contain so much more than anything he could have given me. I am so grateful that he destroyed us. Had I remained his wife, I would have lived a smaller life. I don't know if I am a leader as much as I am a messenger. And perhaps that's what a leader is. A conduit of a larger story. I stand here as a mirror and a reminder of the fire and the light within every woman. My body and spirit were designed for resilience, designed to turn pain into poetry, wound into wisdom, fury into fortitude, grit into grace, past into the future. I wasn't born to be a victim. I wasn't born to be a survivor. I was born to be a warrior. Born to grow stronger with every wound, every obstacle, every abuser, every insult that the world presses down upon me. Carbon, when exposed to extreme heat and enormous pressure, becomes diamonds. I am a woman, and we women are diamonds of the highest shine. We don't need to run anymore, my love. It is time to rise. Thank you.